Welcome back to a new YouTube video. I have the pleasure of having with me Wayne Girard. Maybe you remember about us with our live videos for Football Italia during the Euros. Now we have United, and we're talking about what else if not Italian football again. But particularly, I want to talk about the Milan and Roma situation because they seem to be in a very similar situation. Not on the pitch, because of course Roma's results have been very, very different, but off the pitch because they will hire new coaches, both Roma and Milan, and the way that their American owners are organizing the teams and carrying forward the project over the last few months and years have been something that fans have had something to complain about. And so I want to talk with Wayne exactly about this. Thank you very much for joining me, Wayne.
Hey, Lorenzo. Yes, it's you and I speak privately. This is something that has come up quite a lot, is the question of who's the next coach. And there's never been a consistent rumor. And as someone like yourself who consistently writes and reports about what's coming out in the news, there's always been this revolving carousel, giostra of names. And there's never been that concrete one. It's not like, even though Allegri is someone who's rumored, never takes that next step in the rumors or the seriousness of these stories. It's always like, it could be this guy, it could be that guy, maybe him. All of a sudden, it's Nuno Espirito Santo, and it's like, what are we doing here? What's going on? And I think part of that is the way that the Friedkins do business. As from when they purchased Roma, and they became a very spoken of, but not a company, not a ownership that speaks about. They never speak themselves, right? This leads to a lot of mystery about them. And also many moves which people don't ever see coming. It's often the players who weren't reported to be joining Roma, or the coach who joins like Mourinho out of the blue. And things happen very quickly, and the media often doesn't know too much because of the way that they do business. So as we enter June, it's the middle of May now, or actually it's May 22nd, which is shocking to me. You have to think that the next Roma manager and Milan manager, which we'll get to, is going to be announced hopefully next Monday, in 4 or 5 days. So we're almost there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. I mean, it's the way Roma owners, the way the Friedkins have been moving over the last few years, especially in terms when it comes to coaches, is being very surprising and make sudden decisions that the media didn't see coming. It was this way for Mourinho, but also when they sacked Mourinho, it was in the air somehow. It was clear that he wouldn't have gotten to the end of the season or even lose the job earlier. It was still surprising, but not as surprising and when it was first hired. And it was surprising as well to learn about the Rossi sacking earlier at the start of the season. So there's been a lot going on, and many decisions that Friedkin took were not, let's say, predicted by the media or reported by the media previously. This is why, I mean, you mentioned Allegri. There were rumors about Sarri, Montella, even Jurgen Klopp more recently this week. But I do think that the Friedkin will take somebody who's not in this frame, who's probably not been mentioned already. I know they've spoken already to Gasperini, but it doesn't seem to be an option anymore. They've spoken to Farioli as well. Surely I'm sure they have more clear ideas than what it seems behind the scene, than what it seems to the media and to the fans, because this has been the way they've been moving over the last few years, at least since they acquired Roma.
Yeah, many people have opinions on who the Friedkins are, how they think, how they operate, what they understand or don't understand about football. But the truth is that we don't really know. We've never heard Ryan Friedkin or Dan, real owner, Ryan's his son, speak to the press. They've only, at best, given little memos. When De Rossi was sacked, they announced something like, we're going to move forward, and we regret that it didn't work out, something like that. But it's very short and sweet. It's never somebody in front of the camera or in front of the press. And this is something that Mourinho actually criticized. was that Roma don't have a press officer. Nobody says anything, so the fans are often kept in the dark. And I suppose that the idea behind that is let the results speak for themselves. Unfortunately, over the past 3 years, those results haven't been great. They've been a Conference League title, which I think was way over celebrated and overblown. And then the tragedy that was the previous Europa League final, where Roma really should have been given a penalty, which percentages tell us would have been converted and Roma would have drawn level, and you have a different match, right? But we don't know what they're thinking. I have a feeling, though, Lorenzo, between you and I think it's Allegri.
You think it's Allegri?
I do. At first, I didn't think so. I thought he was going to get like a mega offer from Saudi. And as time went on, I see Max without a job, very serious manager. Gasperini will probably renew Atalanta. I get that feeling, or he goes somewhere else. I just don't. I'm afraid that it could be Pioli. I don't really rate Pioli. I didn't like what he did with Fiorentina. With Milan, I thought they played without an identity, very much kind of like the way they're playing now. But Sarri is another name. But for me, it's Max. I think he steps in. I think that he's appealing to be the Roma manager as he could handle with that press. He doesn't need anybody to vouch for him. He's kind of a hard-nosed type of guy. Maybe some might say old-fashioned, maybe stubborn are a few adjectives for him. I wonder how he would impact Dybala, given their history together. And I'm not sure if he liked him or didn't like him, but you look back and see how he was kind of pushed to the side when Ronaldo joined, and that didn't really pan out as well as it could have for Dybala, who should have been made into the star of that team, in my opinion. So I think that if Max does join, and that's like my over 50%, maybe 60, 70% feeling, then there's going to be a lot of things that follow with it. It's not going to be simple.
Yeah, I think Allegri will be going to Napoli, honestly, because if Conte goes, Allegri has already proved to have replaced Conte really well, and he's a winning coach who can develop this team even further if possible. So I see him joining Napoli and not Roma, but it would be, Roma definitely one of the teams mentioned. And for Pioli, probably the last part, the last season wasn't that good, but he still got a title with Milan Champions League semi-final. Probably not as appealing as, of course, surely not as appealing as Klopp or Allegri, because he doesn't have the same winning pedigrees and the same strong identity, probably. But I still don't see Pioli going to Roma, honestly. But it would be somebody. I think if there's something that Roma and the Friedkin have to learn from the last few experiences in terms of coaches, is that two decisions, just two profiles, really work well at Roma. Somebody who has a very strong and winning pedigree and who's immediately recognizable by the fans, or somebody who has a strong sense of belonging towards the team. So somebody like Ranieri or De Rossi. First part of the season wasn't good for De Rossi, but we know he wasn't sacked because of the results. He was sacked because there was a poor organization and poor decisions making from the previous director at Roma. And the other guy is Mourinho. Who won a trophy for Roma, reached the Europa League final. He didn't get to the Champions League football, but as you said before, Roma don't have a press officer. They have, but he organizes everything. He does everything on his own, like Antonio Conte a little bit. He is the club at that moment as well. And I think Klopp would be something pretty similar. But of course, it's the lesson learned by Roma are these. Either you need somebody with very strong winning pedigree, or somebody who knows exactly what it means to be a Roma fan and a Roma player.
I wonder how Klopp would look at this. Let's say in a fantasy world, this really is real, that this is true, and these rumors of Klopp possibly joining Roma, that there's something to them. What does Roma have that Klopp would want? And I think there's one thing, the project, the idea that he could take an undervalued team and make them into a powerhouse. And I think that's an appealing project. You have the city that goes along with it. On the other hand, I look at the players that he would have at his disposal. A manager like Klopp is going to need 3 guarantees. He's going to need 3 big players. It's not Dovbyk. He would not be his striker. I don't think. I don't even know if he would go with center forward. But on the left, you need a player, a true top class left wing. You probably need another center midfielder and a right back. And those are some positions which I think maybe Klopp looks at and he says, I can get these guys. You pay me through the nose, you give me a big salary, and I have this carrot at the end of the stick, which maybe I can actually reach. And if I reach this objective, I'll be a legend in this city. I think that those could be that's an interesting and intriguing pitch to Klopp if you want to get him to join. Where do they get this money from? I don't know. I don't know how financial fair play would impact that. But I tell you what, it's 99.9% of Roma fans, that would be their dream, would be seeing Klopp.
Yeah, that'd be buying Klopp hats. Family.
We'd be speaking German.
Yeah, probably. And talking about the decision making and who makes decision, there is, I think, quite a direct link between Roma and Milan because of their American ownership and because the way they have managed Milan and Roma. We talked about Jerry Cardinale, the AC Milan owner, and the Friedkin family, the Roma owners. There have been protests from fans this season and most recently as well. Some banners in Rome protesting against the Friedkin and say literally, user go home. Milan fans will protest on Saturday when they play Monza at home. They will enter the stadium, the Ultras in Curva Sud, enter the stadium just for the opening 15 minutes and then leave the stadium. And as they said in a statement, leave the players and the directors, who they didn't mention, alone in their shame. So there were some decisions, of course, that led to this. Again, Milan's poor result, much worse than Roma. Roma's results have improved massively under Ranieri. So the situation and the results on the pitch this season have been very different. Even if Milan reached the Champions League final and won a Super Cup, it's still not a positive season because they're out of Europe. And the Roma, the way that the Americans, as they say, are leading Roma is not satisfying to a big part of the fan base at Roma and Milan. As an American follower of Serie A and as somebody who knows the Italian culture pretty well, where do you think is the missing link between these two realities, the American owners and the Italian fans?
Is actually having their hands on the product. I think that many of the new ownerships look at these teams as undervalued investments, which could one day make them a lot of money, rather than being football fans the way that we are. And when you get into something just for the money because you see an undervalued asset, then you don't really understand what you're playing with. And these owners, they invest in Italian football in order to get stadiums and then sell the team or have a long-term investment which gives them a high dividend per year. When you don't get that stadium, they sell. Palota, so couldn't do it. Goodbye. And it makes sense because they're not people who grew up like you and I watching Rai on Sunday mornings and afternoons and with that type of Italian or Italian-American, Italo-Australian culture. So I don't want to say they don't know what they're doing. They do from a financial standpoint. And then I think some of the problems is when you hire people who you think know the job, but you're hiring people who you assume know the job. But because you don't understand the job, you might hire people who really don't know the job, if that makes sense. It's like, oh, I think because they did this, and that they understand what they're talking about. I interviewed them. They sounded like they were a good idea. But in reality, guess what? They signed XYZ player from the French league for $20 million each. And actually, he's not that good. And now we're $100 million in debt compared to last year. And there's your American disaster. So, and it's not exclusively American. It just has to do with if you know ball or if you don't. And I think a lot of these new ownerships, they don't. Um, you could have something like Como, right? Como's ownership is one of the richest in all of football. But they also have minority owners who are legends of the game, who are not going to let the team go off in the wrong direction. So I think that's the big difference. I think Milan's owners need to be more hands-on. They need to maybe delegate this club to people who do know what they're doing and have the mental capacity to make sure that they do hire the right guys. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I feel bad for Milan, to be honest with you. I grew up during a time, as did you, when Milan were a top 3 team in the world. I watched Pirlo, Seedorf, Andriy Shevchenko rule the world. Kaká. And to go from that to this, Milan look like an amateur side sometimes. They lack an identity. Besides, ironically, Pulisic, the American, who's probably their best player. He's been great. But other than that, I'm like, what are these guys doing? It's just like a random cast of players assembled who don't really click. They're from England. They're from here. They're from wherever. No identity. And I think that there's blood on their hands from Cardinale or Cardinal. Or I guess if you want to Americanize
Yeah,
it.
as you were saying, it's the starting point is having the right place in the right roles and in the right positions to know what they're doing. And it's probably no coincidence that Roma and Milan season will finish now and start the day after tomorrow with similar decisions, because Milan are hiring a new sporting director who is going to add to the existing executives at the club, and Roma will keep Ranieri as a sports advisor. So they are filling positions, so they're putting different people who hope will work in specific positions, because the situation at Milan was dramatic, because the roles behind the scenes were not clear. So that was the main problem, and some executives at Roma, Lina, who resigned after De Rossi left, didn't work out, and now they're trying to rebuild them partially. Ranieri will help as an external advisor as well.
Lorenzo, it's been a great talk. Unfortunately, my bell has rang, which means I have to go back to
We'll speak very, very soon. I knew it would have been this time. So, Wayne, thank you very much. We speak soon.
I'll be back.
Everything else. Bye. 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 So, guys, this was Wayne Girard talking about Italian football, especially Roma and Milan. With me, we'll see the next moves from the two clubs, who, again, need to hire a new coach each and start the new season in style after some slip-ups, more than some slip-ups in the current campaign. As for myself, we will meet again here in the coming days with more Serie A and Italian football videos. Stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and we speak very, very soon.